Hello, my creeplings. I'm back with one of my favorites from the 90s. As a 90s teenager, when I was able to have access to premium cable, or in the rare occasion that, say, Sci Fi, or I think one of my local Fox stations ran these edited late at night, I became a huge fan of Tales from the Crypt. And when they came out with movies in the 90s, ooh, my little creepy heart was going nuts. So I thought I'd pull out one of my all-time favorites and go over it with you guys tonight. This is Demon Night. So Tales from the Crypt Demon Night, released in 1995, directed by Ernest Dickerson, written by Mark Bishop, Ethan Reif, and Cyrus Voris. If any of you guys remember Tales from the Crypt, you know it was a roughly 1 hour horror anthology that was on HBO, and it was a big cultural hit, hosted by the Crypt Keeper, which was a decaying thing with a wonderful sense of humor, voiced by John Kassir. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. So we jump into, this is basically a feature-length version of an episode of Tales from the Crypt. The star power is there. If you remember, on just about every episode of Tales from the Crypt that ran on HBO, they always had either an up-and-coming star or a well-known name that's willing to do things. Like I can remember John Astin, the original TV Gomez Addams, doing an episode. Catherine O'Hara from Beetlejuice did an episode. There were, I think, Ewan McGregor did one as well. Corey Feldman showed up in one. I think Shelley Hack did. There were a lot of recognizable faces in these episodes, and this movie is no different. Let's just go through this cast list, and I will coo and ooh and ah and give you my side notes as I usually do. But we have a stellar cast here, and I do mean stellar. We have Billy Zane, plays our villain, the Collector. William Sadler's our hero, Frank Breaker. I'm just going to say it. The character actor bitch in me loves these two, especially William Sadler. I'm always going to think of William Sadler as Death from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, but I love him in this one. I loved him in, the Katie Holmes one where the kids got taken over. Disturbing Behavior. Just about anything. He was great in the Shawshank Redemption. Just about anything he showed up in that I've seen, I'm delighted. Jada Pinkett Smith, previous to being married, is one of our other heroes. Geraldine. Thomas Hayden Church, another well-known character actor from that point in time. I remember him from Wings. He plays a character named Roach. We have Miss CCH Pounder, known for many, many things. Most recently, I believe, New Orleans. At NCIS New Orleans, but she has done so much. But I think this might have been my first introduction to her. She plays a character named Irene. Brenda Bocke. Now, I recognized her from a television show called American Gothic. She plays a character named Cordelia. The amazing Dick Miller, Futterman from Gremlins. He plays a character they call Uncle Willie. Gary Farmer plays Deputy Bob. I'm not familiar with him. He looks familiar to me, but I can't place where I've seen him. Ryan O'Donoghue is a little boy named Danny. Charles Fleischer, the voice of Roger Rabbit himself, plays a character named Wally. John Shuck, another character actor. I remember him most from when they tried to relaunch the Munsters in syndication in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. He played the Herman Munster character on there, but I've seen him in a lot of other things. That's the first thing that comes to mind is he's my second Herman. And John Larroquette has an uncredited role as an actor at the beginning. So we open up with the classic Tales from the Crypt introduction, where you pan through the decaying mansion down into the crypt, and the Crypt Keeper pops up and does his wonderful maniacal laugh. And we cut to what appears to be an episode in progress, but it turns out they're filming a feature film with the Crypt Keeper as the director. So where John Larroquette does his little cameo. Or not John Larroquette. Yes, John Larroquette. I was going to say John Arquette there for a minute. Sorry. Crypt Keeper lets us know that they're going Hollywood and they've got some movies in the, works, and he's going to show you what they have under their belt right now, which is their tale, Demon Night. Jumps right into it with the credits under the line. You think you're watching an episode until you get it deeper into it and you realize there's a little more budget behind it. And I'm not saying HBO scrimped on the budget for the show, but that just goes to show you how much more budget they put into this. So we're following a car chase in the middle of the desert in New Mexico. Billy Zane's character is chasing William Sadler's character, so the Collector is chasing Breaker. Cars wreck. They both survive somehow. Breaker runs off into the night, tries to steal a car from a diner. The kid, which we find out later is Danny, is like, "Hey, mister, you trying to steal my dad's car?" Blows his cover. He runs off again. Ends up at a point where he meets Uncle Willie. Now, Uncle Willie is an old man, most likely retired, and he's a functioning drunk. Excuse me. Breaker asks where he can get a room for the night. Willie takes him to the rooming house / motel that he's been staying at, run by Irene. It is a converted church. The church was decommissioned as a church in the 50s. It was turned into, eventually, what they call the Mission Motel. This comes in very interesting setup. So, we meet the rest of the cast. Cordelia is a prostitute. Wally is a recently fired postal worker. Roach shows up later, and you find out he's the fry cook at the diner. Who else am I missing? Geraldine is a convict that is work to release, working for Irene. Breaker gets the room. He's renting under the name Mr. Smith, of course. And the Collector has met with the sheriff and his deputy, and has the sheriff and his deputy convinced that he is chasing a Breaker for a stolen artifact. They all end up convening at the mission. Breaker is arrested, and just before everything seems to, they're going to arrest Breaker, the Collector's going to get this thing that he's looking for. And it turns out the other vehicle that the Collector was driving was stolen. The police go to take him in, and all hell breaks loose. Quite literally. You find out the Collector is a hired demon, and he, really cool effect, cuts his palm with his really long fingernail, bleeds everywhere, and the blood is neon green. It looks really cool. It's goopy. It's great. Great effects in this one. And demons sprout out of the ground and start getting in and attacking. Everyone barely survives other than the sheriff, and that's because the Collector punched him straight through his head and ripped it off. I'm telling you, the effects in this are amazing. Gorehounds are going to love it. If you like the original Tales from the Crypt TV series and you know how they got, to a certain level of gore, this is just about right there, maybe a little more. So, Breaker, they manage to get the demons out. Breaker lets them know that if you shoot them in the eyes, it will stop them. And then the artifact he's carrying, they call it a key. It's more like a vial in the shape of a key. The substance in there can seal a portal, and the demons will stay out. We get to a point where Breaker's like, we can't leave. We just have to make it safely through the night. Not saying too much more, which is starting to piss everybody off. Whew, excuse me. One by one, the collector tries to get everyone to turn on each other. First, he gets through to Cordelia, because let's face it, the poor woman is a prostitute, and he tries to seduce her through, we'll make sure that, you're the lost little girl who just wants love, blah, blah, blah. So she's the first to turn, and she kills Wally, so we don't have to worry about Wally turning. So that's 2 of them down. But let's see. Cordelia kills Wally. I know at some point in the night, Irene loses her one arm from the elbow down. Uncle Willie gets possessed. Roach turns on everybody, steals the key, and turns it into the collector. He's one of the last ones to go. And he ends up getting attacked by the demons because, of course, the collector lied. Breaker kind of breaks down what's going on. I'm not going to tell the whole story because it's a little complicated for me to spit out. But there are 7 of these keys scattered across the universe. And at one point in time, all the demons that existed pre-Genesis, when the world was still, before there was Let There Be Light, had possession of all these keys. Well, they now have possession of all but one, and that's the one Breaker's carrying. This one has been passed down through several chosen ones. Each one has had to be refilled. The original carrier was a thief in the days of Jesus Christ who filled the key with the blood of Jesus Christ, because the blood of Jesus Christ apparently repels demons. But each key has had to be refilled by each chosen one before it gets passed on. I know I missed a bunch there, because I'm going to stutter through it. Now, the Guardians of the Key are immortal while holding it. Breaker's had it since 1911. He got it during World War I from his commanding officer. And when you take possession of the key, you get all the memories or flashes of memory from every key bearer before that. So a lot of history in your brain when you become the chosen one. Okay. So they're nosing around trying to figure out a plan of attack. They find that the church's steeple, they'd all forgotten about it, so they're up there looking around. Irene and the deputy are. And they find that Willie was actually going to, and I quote, go postal. Or not and I quote, but, go postal, quite literally. He had firearms built up. He was planning on taking the thing out because he was so in love with Cordelia. He wanted to prove a point. No ordinance for the firearms, though, but there was a suicide bomber type setup. Grenades you just, on a chain you just pulled, and boom. This comes into play. So we get to the very final act. We're up there with Breaker, Danny, and Geraldine. And Danny ends up getting possessed via comic book. Total Tales from the Crypt twist there. And we're left with... He really attacks Breaker, and Breaker's on the verge of death. So, and he tells Geraldine he was looking for his successor. He knew it was time. And it's her. She's going to be the next chosen one. She, of course, doesn't want it. The collector had tried to seduce her earlier and, get her on his side. And she, of course, didn't go. So that's part of why Breaker chose her. So everyone's dead except for Geraldine. Because Irene put the vest on to help the deputy give them clearance to get Danny, Geraldine, and Breaker upstairs into the steeple attic. She just blew that thing and went. So Irene was very self-sacrificing. She managed to turn down the demon's, the collector's offer to give her arm back. There's this nice little thing where he's like, I can give you your arm back. She lifts her stump up and he goes, is that a yes? And she's like, no, that's me giving you the finger. I love CCH Pounder in this. She's just got this no-nonsense woman thing going on. I love every second of it. We get down. Once Breaker dies, all of the blood seals disappear. Because apparently, they're ineffective now. And the collector comes up to try and get the key from Geraldine. Well, she was smart and covered herself in Breaker's blood so that the collector couldn't touch her. It would burn him. So, smart on her. And then he disappears. She goes downstairs to figure out what's going on. He ambushes her in the bathroom, wraps a shower curtain around her, and scrubs her off. Tries to get the key, manages to dump most of the blood down the drain, turns his back long enough for her to drink, looks like she's drinking some. Turns out she's holding it in her mouth. He goes through this whole spiel of, I want you to be by my side. He can't say I love you, but he's trying to say I love you. Do you think you could love me? And she's just silent this entire time. Eventually, she gets close enough, spits the blood on him, and he just goes into full demon form for a minute, flames out, and the morning comes, and Geraldine gets herself together, refills the blood from Breaker, and heads off into the sunset on a bus, but not before sealing the door to the bus. They stop at another stop and go to pick up someone who's waiting, and he's like, nah, I'll get the next one. We're to assume it's the next collector. Now, a nice little Easter egg is when the bus drives off and he starts walking away from the camera, he's whistling the Tales from the Crypt theme song. Then the movie closes with the Crypt Keeper and his dates at the premiere of Demon Knight, where he, of course, got final cut and loses his head. The usual Tales from the Crypt silliness. This is the kind of stuff I grew up watching, and I absolutely love it. This is an effects bonanza. Very, very well cast. And the writing was good. Now, ironically, Tales from the Crypt is based on EC Comics, and I believe every one of the episodes was based on an EC comic of the time. But this was not. This was an original story. This was also meant to be the middle entry of a trilogy of stories that were surrounded those keys. That got scrapped after this was released. But one of the key did show up in the other Tales from the Crypt movie, Bordello of Blood. There was supposed to be a direct sequel called Dead Easy, also known as Fat Tuesday. It was intended to be a New Orleans zombie romp. And the third film was given the total body count, but neither was ever made. Universal thought that this was the most Tales like the Crypt-like feature and released this first instead of being the middle of the trilogy. But yeah, this is just a hoot and a holler. This is so great. The Crypt Keeper is such an iconic character, and with Universal having a hand in this, that meant that the Crypt Keeper is now part of their Universal Monsters family, and they were using him like crazy during those first few years of Halloween Horror Nights, which just, that's the perfect way to use this kind of character. I absolutely think that Tales from the Crypt and the Crypt Keeper really did shape a lot of my enjoyment of horror as a teenager. I know it did for a lot of people my age. It's iconic. Eventually, I would love to meet John Kassir. I know he does cons. I have a friend who had a friend, I know, friend of a friend, but met him recently, meaning I know that he's still doing cons at the time because of the timeline of my friend's friend going and meeting him. Again, he's one of those bucket list characters. And William Sadler, oh my word. Yes. Just yes. William Sadler's up there with Alan Tudyk and Ted and Vincent Price for me, guys. I really should, like, get a wall back here with all of my pictures of my men. Maybe put Ted right here, right next to me. Joking. Although it would be kind of cool to have a collage or something back there of all my favorite horror actors and characters. Project for another day. So yes, if you have not seen this, hell, if you haven't even seen an episode of Tales from the Crypt, go get them. I'm telling you right now, go get them. It's a great way to get your teens into horror. I will say, you gotta be mature about it. There are boobs in this one. There are a lot of boobs in this one, in one scene. Again, we talk about a character being a prostitute in this episode, in this film. The episodes of Tales from the Crypt are also very similar. There's some touchy subject matter. I don't remember there being straight up boobs, but there probably was because it was HBO and it was late night. So if you're a parent who's comfortable with that and talking about that, the tone is very, very good for teenagers, and I really do think that this movie would be great for a teenager, who's just looking for something fun to watch. Tales from the Crypt is definitely in the horror comedy with a heavy lean on the horror and the macabre, which again is right in something I absolutely enjoy. So, Demon Knight from 1995, Tales from the Crypt. Yeah, just go pick it up if you haven't. It'd be great for a 90s retro night. If you want to get someone familiar with the idea of what Tales from the Crypt is and you can't get a hold of any of the TV shows, which I don't understand why you wouldn't. I think they're all on YouTube. It should also be easy to get on DVD. But yes, just watch it. This is one of my favorites. If I can get a hold of Bordello of Blood, we'll talk about that. But this is my favorite of the two. Again, just because of the cast list. Billy Zane. Okay, I don't normally like bald men. I mean, I'm not normally going, ooh, but Billy Zane, ooh, daddy. Yeah, definitely. Again, William Sadler knocks it out of the park. CCH Pounder, just everybody in this one really plays their roles very, very well. And I really wish I would have written down who did the effects on this, because it was good. And I don't see it in my notes anywhere. The Crypt Keeper puppet always looks great. The writing, especially with the Crypt Keeper's puns and everything. Yeah. Really. I'm sorry. You guys should probably realize by now that I film these later in my evening on my days off. I tend to get up and do my chores, and then I do these, so I'm kind of cranking down on the energy scale there, so. But I really do like doing this for you guys, with you guys. So yeah, let me know if you've seen it. Do you like it? Are you familiar with it? Some of you youngins, I don't know. Because I don't know of anybody who's rerun Tales from the Crypt recently. Again, I know that Sci-Fi Channel, back when it was still good, would run it in the evenings. And I believe one of my local Fox channels ran it at like 2, 3 in the morning with some of the other syndicated fodder. I think I had insomnia as a teenager. I still have it to a degree today. But like, there were points from like age 14 to 25 where I would be up all night for 3 nights in a row. And I just, would turn the TV on low or grab a book. I think I specifically remember one night watching an episode of Tales from the Crypt, not this specifically, but an episode of Tales from the Crypt, Hercules the Legendary Journeys, Xena Warrior Princess, and possibly Beastmaster, all in this, like, right in a row, because that's what was, like, syndicated TV. The wild, wild west of cable in the 90s. So, highly suggest this one. I don't know what else to say other than this is a superb movie. This is the kind of stuff I live for. But I think with the yawns, that indicates that I either need a coffee, and this late in the day, I don't need a coffee. I'll be up all night. Or it indicates that it's time for me to say goodbye. So, good night, my creeplings, and I'll see you next time. Bye.